Hey, good morning. This is Talk Back to Television. We're here with John Giegengack from Hub Entertainment Research. John, how are you?
Hey Rick, how's it going?
Now, you're this on this show, you're going to tell us about the interaction of games and other entertainment and feeding backwards and feeding forwards and making more money out of the poor fans, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that is our goal.
yep. I mean, well, this not our only goal. You want to entertain people too. It's a
No,
win-win.
I only want to
Yeah.
entertain them if they're going to pay me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Come on.
if you do a good job at entertaining them, you're gonna make the maximum amount of money. But yeah, but that's what. So we do a study each year called Gaming 360, where we look at uh, video games, and we started doing this because there are, especially among young people, not exclusively, but especially among young people, gaming is consuming a much uh, greater amount of their time. It's taking time away from uh, the time they spend watching TV shows and movies. So we started looking at it just as primarily a competitor for TV, but increasingly over the past couple of years, we've looked at it more as a complement to TV, as we see
Okay.
more examples of IP jumping very successfully from games into TV shows and into movies, and then vice versa. And we've also seen big media companies like Disney with their investment in Epic Games, or Paramount Skydance with their stated objective to make gaming and gaming IP part of their strategy going forward. There's really kind of a marriage of these two kinds of content. I think partly because the gaming has become so popular, but also the games themselves have become a lot more uh, storytelling oriented. And so I think they lend themselves better now to being turned into some other kind of content like a TV show or a movie. And they come with a baked in audience, of a huge audience often, of people that are already familiar with the characters and the world and the story, and are eager to find more of it in any sort of format.
Now, on the assumption that the person playing the game is either buying a subscription to a service or saying, "Dad, I really want that," one form or another. Um, I remember when Disney Plus launched, they tried to maximize the connection between that service and the parks.
Yeah,
And you could get pretty sizable discount at a resort reservation, I think mostly at Disney World, which is the one I paid attention to, if you had on your Disney account a Disney Plus subscription.
yeah, your D23 account.
But it had to be, by the way, it had to be exactly the same email address. So
Hmm.
if I had a family subscription with somebody, but it wasn't on my email address, I couldn't take advantage of that. Now, I haven't seen a lot of that cross marketing lately, but it would seem that since we are watching more people, more Gozatis than Gazinis in many cases on the subscription side, it would seem that would make sense. Why don't we see more people doing that?
Uh, well, I mean, I think Disney, from my understanding or what I read in the press, was that the team that was responsible for that particular integration, uh, that effort was kind of disbanded during COVID. But there are
Okay.
other companies, if you look at Hallmark Plus, that incorporates the
Yep.
streaming video with their retail presence. I think all of that stuff is really, really smart because it's going beyond just one more streaming platform, and it's kind of catering to your community. So people that like Disney and go to Disneyland and watch Disney movies, that's not just a fandom. That's not just a viewership, it's a fandom. The same thing with people that really like Hallmark content and shop at Hallmark stores. They're not the same as everybody else, and that thing that makes them different is a through line that goes through their content and through the retail. And I think that's why gaming is such a good fit. If you look at people that play Fortnite and people that watch Disney Plus content, there's a big overlap there. And Disney, before they made the investment, they already knew that because Fortnite is full of uh, Marvel and Star Wars themed promotions where you can play as the Mandalorian, or you can play as Spider-Man or Iron Man. And that's been a really effective way, in the results, but also what we see in our research of one more way that these people can engage with the IP and the characters. And so they know that games and TV shows and movies are not exactly the same thing, but they're not looking at it that way. They're looking at it, it's all under the header, The Mandalorian, or it's all under the header of the Avengers. And they will consume, uh, you know, comic books or games or movies or TV shows or anything else that is put out there that kind of falls within that IP, those stories, those characters that they're already invested in.
Okay, now if we wanted to play if we wanted to explore the strategy that I might play a game and book a certain number of hours or
hmm
achieve a certain level, which would earn me a credit on my Paramount Plus subscription. Okay.
hmm
If there is something that appears on the screen that I have to copy and put over, dead in the water. Okay. But it would seem that at least with online games, we could make sure we have that handshake when I start playing. That when I subscribe to the game or buy the game, I acknowledge that I have this other thing going on. Is there a difference between online games and platform games in terms of the engagement? You're looking at both, but the big business is in platform still, isn't it?
What do you mean by platform? You mean like,
Xbox and PlayStation?
yeah, I mean, but those are online games too. So
Well, that's right. You're no
yeah,
longer sticking the
they
disc
connect
in,
to each
aren't you?
other, and you actually hit on, one of the biggest findings in our study is the extent to which uh, young people especially are engaged with this content, and it's not just something that it's not a thing that they just do. It's kind of part of uh, their life. It's part of how they interact with their friends. Hang on, I'm just trying to pull up this slider so I can read you a couple numbers, which I know I don't normally do this, but these are worth it.
Well, you did. This is a new
So,
study, so
yep.
you're giving us a sneak peek here.
So just looking at gamers that are under 25, so 68% of them often game together with their friends. 68% of them use the in-game chat to talk about stuff other than the game.
Oh,
Half of them say that most or all of their communication with friends happens inside of a game as opposed to, texting or talking to them on the phone or even seeing them in person. So it's essentially like a utility, like a telephone. And then 40% of them have at least one friend that they game with that they consider a friend, but they've never met them in real life. Imagine that. That's
yeah.
almost half. And you can't overstate the importance of that level of engagement with a piece of content. It's something that they enjoy, but they also need it to stay in touch with their community, and their community of friends is often formed around these games. And I think that's why you see, for instance, like all the teenage kids going to Minecraft and all shouting at the same points and throwing all their popcorn in the air. And because it's more than a piece of content, it's kind of a community that they feel like they own and that they discovered, and that they will consume it in the game, and they will go with all their friends and watch it in the movie theater as well.
So I'm not just going to go online, even on my PlayStation or Xbox now. I'm online. I'm in the system. I'm not just playing a game. I'm playing a game with my friends.
hmm
And that Bobby guy, he's beat me 4 times. This time I'm going to get him, right? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
And I'm going to chat with him. That chatting is during the game, right? A little
Yeah, you bet.
sidebar in
With a
there.
headset, and they talk about the game, but they also talk about everything else too, and they do that more than they talk to each other on the telephone.
Is this audio chatting?
Yep.
So I'm not trying to text. Okay, so I am telling you, ha, I got you that time, right?
Yeah.
That
Usually there's more obscenities than that, but yeah.
I understand that. Okay, so it is a community.
And the other thing, sorry to interrupt, but like one more thing that's key about this is that these games are not just sort of static things uh, that you observe, like Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite are all creative. So you can create your own environment that you and your friends are in. You build it together. You compete in it depending on the game. So it's a much more immersive thing where they're involved in creating the environment that they're gaming in, and they feel ownership for it. And that's why there's such a deep connection that transfers over into other forms of media, because it's a much deeper connection than just watching something in a static way.
So I actually have a connection to a game which would go to a show on a service that I would subscribe to, which probably makes me less likely to disconnect that service, huh?
For sure. Yeah, and if think about like one of the really successful crossover games lately was The Last of Us.
Yep.
And so The Last of Us, that actually isn't like an online kind of collaborative game. That's a game that you play by yourself, but it's this very immersive story. And in fact, the director of and creator of the show is the same guy that was the director of the game. Video games have directors now. So a lot of people were shocked at how well received and how popular The Last of Us was when it came out. I think it had the number two biggest launch on streaming after House of the Dragon. But really, if you think about where that show came from, it makes a lot of sense. The first so the game itself was, about 10 years old when the show came out. They'd made a second one, The Last of Us 2, but the show was based on the first one. Uh, and the very first episode, literally shot for shot, is the same as the first 40 minutes or so of the video game. And if you think about the fact, I think like 20 million people bought that game. The game costs $60. It takes about, 12 hours to work your way through the entire game because it's a long story. Uh, but a lot of people spent all that time and they spent all that money and they loved it. And it's not so, is it so hard to believe that those people would then go out and spend, $16 to get an HBO Max subscription so they could watch a show based on this game that they loved and had already invested all of that time and effort and money in. To me, that's not a long bridge to cross at all. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think.
yeah, that's not a stretch. Okay, so it suggests that the perfect strategy would be for, let us say, Warner, whoever ends up owning Warner, whether it be Netflix or Skydance or whomever, okay? That Warner might have a game title on a subscription basis marketed by them or marketed through somebody else. This one sort of doesn't matter. A game title for which they also have pay programming on Max. They shouldn't be treating that game title as competition. That game should be a marketing arm for them, shouldn't it?
For sure. I mean, and they could, there's things that have been done in the past. Uh, there was a show on Sci-Fi called Defiance, where, this is back in 2013 or 14, but where they built a massively multiplayer online game and a TV show at the same time. It was a very, very bold move, a lot of money, a very immersive. It was on console and PC, which is hard to do. And it was kind of before its time, but this is the kind of strategy I think could really succeed today. The things that happened in the show changed what happened in the game, and things that players as a group did in the game, sort of group missions that everybody would work to accomplish, would impact that they would be reflected in the plot of the show. And when we looked at things like uh, recruiting people that were watching the show into playing the game and vice versa, both eventually most people who did one ended up doing both of them.
Really.
But they were really successful in migrating people from one to the other. And then we also did a comparison back then to look at the performance of advertising, and we compared brands that only advertised in the TV show, like I think Axe Body Spray had some TV spots, but then we compared that with brands like Dodge that were advertising in the show, but then they were also part of the game. So the main character had this, they had this Dodge Charger car that had somehow survived for 200 years after the apocalypse, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
going
yeah.
around the wasteland, but it was unmistakably a Dodge Charger. The brand recall and the brand interest, the lift was multiples bigger for the brands that were in the game and the show than for the brands that were only advertised in the show in a regular 30-second spot.
So that suggests that the big studios and production companies who are acquiring game companies and game brands might actually have the strategy that I can sell more subscriptions through and with my game, and I can sell more games through and with my subscription, and suggests that at some point in time we might actually see bundles.
Yeah, well, but there are bundles.
Subscribe to X and
Yep.
get a code to play this game. Wow.
Absolutely. And then that's, I mean, that's sort of like if you take it uh, to the best case scenario
Yeah.
extreme, but even short of that, when companies are considering new titles to make, everybody has less budget now to spend on those kinds of things. And if you can find a piece of IP that has a baked in fan base of tens of millions of people, the the roll of the dice on whether or not it's going to be successful, a lot of that risk gets taken away than if you're creating a brand new show from scratch. Because The Last of Us, people were surprised at how big of a hit it was, but it was because all the people that played the game all showed up on day one to watch the
Right.
show. And then everybody else that wasn't a Last of Us player, they all saw the 100% Rotten Tomatoes reviews, and then they all came in for the second episode and watched. And then that show had the biggest jump from episode one to episode two in the entire history of HBO, going back even before streaming. So there's really a way to, I think, a win-win by giving consumers more of the IP and the stories that they love. They're excited to watch it, they enjoy it. And for the studios and for the distributors, they can plug into that big audience and get a return on their investment with a much lower risk than just trying to create something brand new from scratch.
We tend to have now a growing population of viewers of this show who are on Wall Street. For good reason. We're talking about stuff that they want to pay attention to. This all suggests that they should not look askance at a big studio company buying a gaming company just for the gaming revenue, but for literally the marketing and cross-promotional opportunity, the integration, the synergy, I guess,
There's
between
tremendous synergy.
between products to accelerate growth,
Hmm.
reduce churn on the premium side, increase subscriptions and gameplay. And I think the beauty of all that is all you have to do is make that game available to John Giegengack, and he's going to do all the marketing for himself every time he plays the game.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and I play a lot more video games than a 54-year-old man should play. But I can attest that it works. And if you I mean I played The Last of Us 1, The Last of Us 2. I played my way through them both multiple times. And like I was sitting on the couch, a week before that show came out, waiting for it to begin. And there are a lot of other people like me, and I think it's kind of we're seeing more of these crossovers now, but I think it's still kind of an underutilized and underappreciated uh, strategy because there are these games that have giant fan bases that still care about these stories,
Yeah.
years and years and years after that game first came out. But they're there waiting for someone to deliver more of that story and the characters in the world that they like, and they'll spend the time. They will happily sign up for a new platform if they need to get it,
Yes.
because there's no substitute. If you really like The Last of Us, there's other sort of similar shows you can watch, but that's the one, that's the real deal, and I already know that I like it. So of course I'm going to go spend a little bit of money to get more of it on some other platform.
Well, in terms of cross-generational, my only concern is that my son used to beat the pants off me at Super Mario Kart, and now his son does the same thing.
Yeah, my son beats me. I kind of I can beat my kid at Fortnite. I can't beat him at Super Mario Kart.
All right, buddy.
All right.
We will talk again. Great conversation. You take care of yourself.
See you, Rick. Thank you.
Bye bye.